Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It's me, Rob Marsiglio, back for another video this week. It was a busy week in real estate news. We're going to touch on the CMHC announcement with regards to 30-year amortizations and insured mortgages, some big changes that they're proposing to go into effect December 15th. We're also going to touch on some market activity numbers from across the GTA to keep you posted on, what our showings look like through the first half of September, what our sales and new listings number looking like, and what is going on with active inventory. I posted an update on X earlier this week, but how have things developed as we've gotten into the week? Let's start off with that CMHC news though. Here it is, the big announcement. The federal government raises insured mortgage cap to $1.5 million and expands 30-year amortizations. So the federal government unveiled sweeping changes to Canada's mortgage system, calling them the boldest reforms in decades. I'm pulling all of this from an article on Canadian mortgage trends. So as we get into this, I want you to realize and maybe read these headlines with the lens that we're coming into an election year. We're kind of, I'd say, a year out at most from an election, next October. Big promises being made by the federal government, big changes to kind of help people trying to get into the housing market, at least what they're veiling this announcement as. Let's dive into some of the specifics on the changes that were made. Now, I'm pulling this right from the Government of Canada website, the release that they put out the other day. The link's at the bottom of the screen if you want to go check that out too. So they're increasing the $1 million price cap for insured mortgages to $1.5 million. So effective December 15th, 2024. And that's to reflect current housing market realities and to help more Canadians qualify for a mortgage with a down payment below 20%. Increasing the insured mortgage cap, which has not been adjusted since 2012, to $1.5 million will help more Canadians buy a home. Now, there had been some groups trying to get this cap raised from $1 million to $1.25 million. The government stepped in and raised it up to $1.5 million. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that two of the biggest, busiest housing markets being the Greater Vancouver area and the Greater Toronto area, that $1 million price point, sadly, in the cities themselves doesn't get you much of an entry product. So they're trying to raise that cap up to $1.5 million to maybe open up the pool of buyers that can afford that entry level or move up level home, that $1 to $1.5 million home. I'm going to kind of touch on the changes. We'll break some of the numbers down a little bit later in the video, but I feel like that's the reason for this one. And change number 2 comes to expanding eligibility for 30-year mortgage amortizations to all first-time home buyers and to all buyers of new builds, and that's effective December 15th, 2024 as well, to reduce the cost of monthly mortgage payments and help more Canadians buy a home. By helping Canadians buy new builds, including condos, the government is announcing yet another measure to incentivize more new housing construction and tackle the housing shortage. This builds on the budget 2024 commitment, which came into effect on August 1st, 2024, permitting 30-year mortgage amortizations for first-time homebuyers purchasing new builds, including condos. So they threw in the phrase including condos a couple times in that statement. This just kind of screams to me as a bit of a pseudo builder bailout. They're trying to, there's a ton of, unsold pre-construction or new build inventory sitting out there that these builders just cannot sell. The government's trying to step in to help them out is what it looks like to me. They mentioned condos a couple times. That's where a lot of this new build inventory is just sitting. Let's get some reaction from maybe a couple industry professionals, a couple mortgage people, and see what they think about these changes. So back to that Canadian Mortgage Trends article. First, we're going to hear from Ron Butler, Butler Mortgages. He said this appears to be a pre-election move by what he called a desperate government, comparing it to providing a safe injection site for mortgage debt. He pointed out that getting a $1.4 million government-insured mortgage might still require both sets of parents to co-sign, highlighting that even with these reforms, affordability remains a major hurdle for many young buyers. And that's kind of what I thought as well with that raising the cap on insured mortgages. I feel like the down payment shouldn't be the issue if you're able to afford a mortgage that is, close to $8,000 per month prior to any other property fees like taxes, maintenance, utilities, any of those things. It just feels like hey, look, we're doing something for you move, when in reality, you need to read between the lines or dig a little deeper to realize that it's not really helping a large portion of the population get into housing. Mortgage broker Ryan Sims raised concerns about the potential risks of extending amortizations to 30 years for first-time buyers. He said, do we really need 30-year amortizations? We've tried this before and it didn't end well. While it reduces monthly payments, Sims emphasized that it ultimately increases the total cost of home ownership. That's what I want to do for the next part of the video, is kind of breaking down what does the payment difference look like, the breakdown both from a monthly perspective, the term and the total life of the amortization. If you're looking at a 25-year AM versus a 30-year AM for one of these massive insured mortgages. So here we go again. This is using the Government of Canada's mortgage calculator. So our mortgage amount that I calculated was 1.35. And the way that I came to this number was using the minimum down payment kind of schedule. I modified it a little bit. So we take 5% of the first 500,000, 10% of the next 500,000. Then I bumped it up to 15% of the next 500,000, which would result in a down payment of $150,000 minimum on a $1.5 million property, which again, that's what you can insured mortgage up to with these new rules. So it results in a down payment of $150,000, which is half of what would traditionally be required if you had to put 20% down on that purchase price. And that would bring you to $300,000. So, you're cutting your down payment in half in essence. Regardless, here we go. We have a mortgage amount of just shy of 1.35, just using an interest rate of 4.59% right now. Here's our 25-year example, paying monthly in our mortgage term of 5 years. So you can see here that our monthly mortgage payment is going to be about $7,500. You'd pay off $163,000 in principal over the first term. Interest payments in that first term would be about $290,000 for a total cost of $452,000 over the life of the mortgage. If you were to go the entire 25 years at the same rate, just renewing every single year, you would pay about $2.26 million for that $1.5 million home. Here's what it looks like when you extend that out to 30 years. You can see that your monthly mortgage payment comes down 8.8%. You're also paying off, just more than a quarter less principal in that first term. Your interest payments go up by almost 2% on that first term, while your total cost is down about 9%. But again, it's when you look at the entire amortization period, that entire 30 years, if you stuck to the same plan, you realize that you're paying, in interest payments alone, about 23.5% more, and your total cost alone, you're paying about 10% more than you would sticking to that 25-year amortization schedule. So you can see that over the life, if you were to stick it out, the 30-year amortization is going to cost you about 10% more in total, largely and entirely as a result of those increased interest payments. There are strategies you could use to maybe offset some of that increase, doing lump sum payments each year, maybe on the anniversary of your mortgage. Who knows what that looks like? But I just feel like if you are stretching to get into a home, the cash flow is not in a situation where you're putting enough away. Like if you can afford a $7,000, $7,500 mortgage, why weren't you able to put money away to save for that down payment is the question that I'm asking. Anyways, if you have answers for me, let me know in the comments below if you think that this policy change makes a little more sense or will have a little more impact than I think it will. That's enough policy talk for one video for me. Let's get into some numbers, specifically what is happening with showing numbers using the City of Toronto as an example. Here's a chart that I've shared and updated on this channel a few times before, and I do it on X pretty frequently as well. This is pulling showing data from Broker Bay for the City of Toronto. You can see my weird margins with the 5s on the end here. Not sure what's going on there. But anyways, you can see we have had an uptick in showings, big slowdown from the end of our spring market in June through the summer, as you'd expect. Now we see some buyers coming back out to view properties. Quick side note, this does not involve people attending open houses all the time. Sometimes agents will register their clients to walk through open houses, but it doesn't account for couples or individuals or families that are going out to look at open houses really without a broker or a realtor. Those showings are not being booked through this system. So it's probably a bit of an underrepresentation, but I wouldn't say by too much. Anyways, you can see the uptick in the weekly showing numbers, but you can also see that when we look at new listings, we've set new weekly highs for new listings hitting the market. The week starting September 8th saw just over 2,000 new listings hit the market across the City of Toronto. A big uptick. You can see that the trend was similar, new listings to showings slowing down through the summertime. Now this big spike. But what you will notice is that the spike in new listings is much larger than the spike that we saw in weekly showings, and that resulted in showings per new listing really hitting the lowest points that we have seen year to date. So yes, more buyers have come back to start viewing properties, but sellers have really flooded the market quicker than buyers are coming back, resulting in fewer showings per new listing, at least to this point in September. And just to highlight what's going on in the 905, I'll use Durham region as an example. The charts look very similar to what we're seeing in Toronto, and you can see that the trend has been the same. we saw a big spike in showings per new listing, mostly as a result of showings holding a little more relatively flat than new listings falling off near the end of the summer. But as we've seen inventory come back, buyer demand, at least from a showings perspective, has not been able to keep up. I want to wrap things up by looking at our halfway through September update in terms of new listings and sales numbers, the sales to new listings ratio, how it compares to the past 15 or so years going back to 2008. We'll start with new listings entered in the GTA. You can see that the freehold market, it is actually the fourth busiest start to a September that we've seen in terms of new listings coming to market going back to 2008. And when you look at the condo side, this red bar, it is the busiest start to a September that we've seen in terms of new condo listings hitting the market across the GTA going back to 2008. But surprise, surprise, there's nothing really new here. Our numbers for sales are really lagging. So we're actually off to a bit better start, quote unquote better start. We've had about 85 more sales occur this year through 2 full weeks of September on the freehold side of things than we saw in 2023. So it's actually only the second slowest start to a month that we've seen. 2023 still a little bit slower. On the condo side though, the trend has been downwards. It's the slowest start in terms of sales that we've seen on the condo side of things. And when you put that all in that sales as a percentage of new listings, you can see that we've actually dipped under 20% on the condo side across the GTA. And in terms of sales as a percentage of new listings, that's when you see that it's actually the slowest September on the freehold side as well. We're just hovering right around 23%. Quick recap, and it's not a perfect science, but anywhere between 40 and 60% for this metric would be considered a balanced market. Below 40%, you're getting into buyer's market territory. Above 60%, you're getting into seller's market territory. And while it's useful to compare to previous years, how things trended just through 2024 so far, the black line here is sales as a percentage of new listings from the freehold side, and the red line is the condos. You can see condos under 20%. Again, this is not a full month of data that we're seeing here yet, just the kind of first couple of weeks, but by far the lowest totals that we've seen any month year to date right across the GTA. And to put the little bow on this video, quick update on what is happening with active inventory. I updated this chart the morning of September 19th. You can see that we've added about 450 new listings across the GTA since my update that I did on September 15th, being Monday, or September 16th, whatever day that was. But anyways, 450 new listings so far. It looks like things are starting to crest over, but we do have, Thursday, the day that I'm recording this video, is traditionally the busiest new listing day of the week in the GTA. We'll see more sales reported usually on Fridays too. So let's see how those two numbers offset. It'll be kind of a more accurate reading when we update this chart on Monday. But if you look back to 2023, where my mouse cursor is over here, you can see that we had 2 big weeks of jumps, just like we've seen in 2024 so far, before we started to see a bit of a cresting over, and then, a bit more of a pickup through October into November last year in terms of the active inventory. So let's see if we follow a similar trend this year, if kind of that new or active listing growth slows week over week right now, or if we keep accelerating at the pace that we have seen the past couple weeks. We covered a lot in this video. I hope that you got some value out of it. I do appreciate you sticking through right to the end of this thing. If you enjoyed the video, you enjoyed a dive into the stats, covering that policy, please consider subscribing to the channel, maybe liking the video, sharing it with somebody who might get some value out of these videos, whether it's for the purpose of transacting in real estate or just enjoying following along with our wild market. I'll do something like this every single week for you, unless it's the summertime and I get busy, but you know what I mean. I try to do this every single week. I appreciate all the support that you've given me to this point in time. Again, thank you so much for sticking with me right through to the end of this video. Until we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers.